Welcome to the Southern Region's Minority Supplier Development Council's virtual reshoring event. I am Kenny Tubby, President CEO of Choctaw Call Distribution Company, a Native American-owned manufacturer and distributor of gloves, PPE, safety supplies, hand tools, power tools, and janitorial and MRO supplies as well. We're all here because we have an opportunity in front of us. We are very glad that you have decided to join us today. After decades of sending jobs overseas, employment is being shifted back to Indian country, and U.S. territories are encouraging firms to come back to the shore. We have two great sessions that will discuss some of the benefits of reshoring and how it impacts you. The new GOP report that just came out stated that to build new facilities could take up to 5 to 8 years. My tribe already has facilities available, which gives any corporation willing to do business with us a substantial head start and a huge competitive advantage. First, I will introduce Chief Cyrus Ben, who will be giving you an overview of the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians history and culture. So, Chief Ben is the fifth democratically elected tribal chief to the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians, a federally recognized tribe of over 11,100 members, living on or near 35,000 acres of tribal lands in east central Mississippi. Chief Ben has a 14-year service to the Choctaw tribal government and tribal business leadership, including 8 years as a Pearl River community representative on the tribal council prior to being elected tribal chief in 2019 of July. He served 4 years as the tribe's secretary and treasurer and 3 years as the president of Choctaw Icana, a tribally chartered corporation. A graduate of Mississippi College, Chief Ben earned his bachelor's degree in business administration and marketing in 2001. He earned an associate's degree in business from East Central Community College in 1998. Chief Ben provides executive branch leadership in education, economic, and community development. As a tribal chief, he oversees a full workforce for Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians of over 7,000 employees and administers tribal government services, education, and development. In addition, Chief Ben oversees several tribal public service enterprises such as housing, healthcare, transportation, construction, water and utilities, natural resources, real estate, public safety, and others. Chief Ben stays very active in community serving as a coach and mentor for local youth sports teams. He also provides volunteer services and is an advocate for youth with special needs. His work with tribal youth promotes peer and elder mentorships, personal goal setting, and an appreciation of Choctaw self-determination. Recently, Chief Ben was announced as a recipient of the Governor's Initiative for Volunteer Excellence Award, recognizing his volunteerism within the state of Mississippi. Chief Ben has also been recognized in Indian country as an emerging young leader. In 2009, the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development named Chief Ben to the Native American 40 under 40 class. He most recently, the Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves appointed Chief Ben to the Mississippi Flag Commission, which oversees the selection of a new flag, a new state flag. As an enrolled member of the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians and a fluent speaker of his native Choctaw language, Chief Ben is a lifelong resident of the Pearl River community, which is the same community I serve, where he resides with his wife, Tarita, and their children, Brody, Eden, and Sela. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce Chief Cyrus Ben.
Hello, everybody. I appreciate you making time and us coming together virtually. I know the challenges of the day we live in right now is tough, but thankfully technology continues to connect us and we can move forward to help our respective areas. Thank you, Kenny, for the introduction. I'll give you a tip later. But from the mission, on behalf of the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians, I invite you to continue your expansion of learning about us. We're rich in culture and history for many generations. Our people have been here on the lands, what formerly before even statehood of Mississippi. As you see on the map there, located here on the Gulf Coast, we prominently over 33,000 acres located here in East Central Mississippi. But again, before to statehood, this will show you that Choctaw Territory occupied most of what is currently the state of Mississippi into the state of Alabama as well, and had even a larger footprint if you even went to the Library of Congress and looked at some maps of the late 1700s. But currently we reside in most of East Central Mississippi. The next slide will show you, but here's some historical work, is that our people have always been a form of, I would say, entrepreneurialism way before entrepreneurialism probably was even used in language here in our lands, including our brothers, the Chickasaw tribe, they were prominently in North Mississippi. And, you know, we were agriculturalists, as it was celebrated by the landing of Europeans into America, that we were able to provide in a meal for many of them as they come upon the shore, and being able to, many times as we're approaching the celebration of Thanksgiving. But, you know, we've lived off the land, been able to utilize natural resources to be able to trade and use natural things that was given to us by the creator, whether it was through, you know, pelting or just utilizing various things such as beadwork, and our artisans also utilize it today to be able to be successful if it's in their personal entrepreneurs through using the arts and crafts. But I want to also share with you, you know, when you hear times of Choctaw, we were recognized in 1945 as the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians. We do have brothers and sisters that all of us shared same ancestral roots, and there was it is deemed as a trail of tears by historical means, but it was quite an impact to our people that were removed from this land, not by choice through the Indian Removal Act that was by the United States government. But you will find our brothers and sisters even in Louisiana by the Gina Band of Gina Band of Indians. And then you've got them in Oklahoma, where it be the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. If you ever do any historical studies, you will find even our brothers and sisters of the Chickasaws, that some of our language and everything, you'll see the similarities. And current day, there's no Chickasaw tribe in the state of Mississippi, but they are in the state of Oklahoma as it is. And to the south, you also find some of the creeks, what you have in lower Alabama, the Porch Creek tribe, and then the Muskogee Creek in Oklahoma. To break down the location of exactly where I stated were 33,000 acres in East Central Mississippi, we all the way down to the coastline in Jackson County. It's more of an industrial property that we have there, no residency, but we are occupying more into Central Mississippi, where most of our operations. And we also have trust lands in Western Tennessee, in Henning, Tennessee, or Lauderdale County, if you know that geographical area. So we have still a substantial footprint where our people are. We do have residents of our people that do reside in the Henning area. With majority of our people here in Central Mississippi, we occupy into 8 different communities. But as you see on the screen, we're in 10 different counties of trust properties in the state of Mississippi. To define the variance of whether there are some lands that we may have fee lands, which is still applicable taxation, but once it is placed into tribal trust, it is where the Department of Interior has pulled that land into trust status, in which is non-tax applications for us. If you we'll go to the next one. Just to show you a timeline, one thing I want to bring out to you in this timeline: who would have thought 100 years later we would see the gray identified by the Grace notation of the flu epidemic that is occurring here in 2020. But it shows you our lands, as I stated. If you went to the maps in the late 1700s at the Library of Congress, many times you'd find some of the territories that territorial land that our ancestors had occupied was from the Mississippi River and pretty close to almost what is currently the Alabama and Georgia state line, and where the removal of from our people from certain lands came by treaty. Sometimes an epidemic, as we have faced a substantial mortality rate. I know this isn't, I want to include this in some of the struggles we've had, and we've also working with some medical experts that hopefully we can identify if it's a genetic effect of current COVID and how it's affected our people. But we've lost 79 members out of our 11,000 members here in Mississippi due to the COVID pandemic virus. With that, if you look at it from a standpoint per population, per 100,000, us losing 79 people is like losing 790 per 100,000. And with that mortality rate is unfortunately the highest in the United States. So we've had quite a battle, but we have come quite a ways. Our last loss had been July 31st until last week, and we had another fatality from the virus. But keep us in your prayers while I'm discussing this. I'd like to just let you know kind of how we've been impacted. Then moving forward to common day that we're in, 1945 was when we got our recognition. I'd like to bring this out as when I said about the artisans, where we have been able to utilize swamp cane for trade. Now, as you see right here, you got multiple baskets in these basketry there's a different way of weaving. It could be your single weave to your double weave. They could be used as purses to your crop collecting usage. If it's woven tightly enough, it was holding water. As you see, one of our elders there in the process of making a basket, it was probably utilized in a home to probably what you would call an egg basket to be utilized your food and stuff. And so that being said, our people has shown the history of not only being able to have the talent in creating the artwork that we have, but being able to use that artwork into entrepreneurialism into the area. We invite you to, if you ever have an opportunity to come down and the firsthand to be able to see the artistry that our people do, like I told you, you're using natural means of making this artwork. You see here is some of our dancers celebrating in social dances, where the beadwork, where many times the beadwork was made by natural seeds and bones and such, but now as things have transpired and being able to modernize, I think that also speaks loudly. I mean, at one point, all of our clothing was either by tanned hide or by cotton, as European cotton growth and agriculture came upon this land. But you see there, you cannot, the turquoise dress in the center of the screen is like a satin material. So when I bring that up to show you that as a people we have modernized, from agriculturalists into going into the economic state that we are, to when we got into the 70s, we were able to get into the state to go into manufacturing. But I want to go to the next slide is our stickball. It's a very, what we call it is grandfather of America's field sports. If many of you may have more adapt or known of seeing lacrosse. When you look at this, you probably think, oh, that looks pretty close to lacrosse. It is similar in its ways. Our brothers and sisters of the northern tribes play that sport, in which ours is played in a different setting, where it shows you imagery to your on the left hand side is of the past of how it's played by many men, that was used also by being able to settle disputes. If you ever watch the sport, it's some people would say it's a very violent sport. Some people would say it's a very strenuous on the body, but it also takes a lot of talent as well. And the image on the right hand side is your modernized field of play sport. We play it on a football size field. And if you want to image, okay, how is it played? Each team has 30 players on the field at each time. So that's 60 players on each field. Very similar. I want to use soccer. It's up and down. The clock does not stop. And the ball is if you can see it real closely, the guy in the maroon and white jersey, the ball is an orange ball about the size of a golf ball that's inside the sticks. The racket part, which is handmade made by hickory sticks. It is laced also by deer hide that has been tanned. So, and the objection is, of course, in lacrosse is to go into a net. In our sport is to hit a post that's 12 foot in height and 4x4 in diameter. And with that, we use this sport to settle disputes, as in, say, for instance, our brothers and sisters, there was a plot of land that we had a dispute about, and we would have a game. And of course, instead of, what you would say, knuckling up, we would just play all out stick ball. And if, Kenny or John and I played against each other, if my team won, the dispute was settled. That's where, and hey, we shake hands and move forward. And if you ever watch this sport, I think it's a testimony to our people how there can be so much energy and the tenacity put forward. And at the end of the day, once the game is settled, we shake hands, we tap sticks and move forward. And I think that's also a testimony to our people, that we have went through battles. We have gone through the adversity that we faced, whether, as I stated earlier, the Trail of Tears or the U.S. government and some of the acts that was passed, those were painful moments. But at the same token, we as a tribe, we have modernized. Myself, and having that ability and the opportunity to have tribal to federal government, tribal to state government relationships that Kenny mentioned a moment ago. I had the opportunity by the state of Mississippi Governor-elect Tate Reeves appointed myself along with some others to serve on a flag commission. And we are blessed right now that it will be on the ballot in the upcoming November election, that the possible new flag of the state of Mississippi will have a golden star that also gives recognition to the first peoples and the natives that once was up on this land prior to statehood. And as I began earlier to greet you, Halito is hello, and Yakoke is thank you. We are very blessed that most of our membership of the age of 35 and up has been able to retain our language. Sayupa asanochi mabachicha noti nanaga ilikana rukianish apimabachitugush himaga chimanoplish bilin limumana. I sit here today that I'm thankful that the opportunity was given to me by my elders that taught us our language, that I can still utilize this language today and be able to speak to you today in my own language. So that's just a quick tidbit. Some people would say, "What did you just say?" But if you're curious of the structure, the English language is actually would be, even though it is probably the most widely used language. English language structure is backwards in comparison to most other foreign languages. In our language as well, the structure from a noun adjective structure is also backwards. But let me say this: we're not backwards when it comes to economics, and that's where we are today. And moving forward, we went into manufacturing, we went into the gaming industry, we went into the federal contracting world, and we as a people want to continue to be first class. We want to train our people. Since 1994, when we began our gaming industry, we want to invest in our people, and we started a scholarship program that would allow any one of our members to be able to go and get their secondary education so they can come back and work for our people in the specific trade. And most recently, we were very blessed. We've had attorneys, we've had nurses, we've had teachers, we've had all of the careers, and we're very blessed that in the past, in 2015, we had a young lady decide to go to medical school, and a year ago, she completed to be a medical doctor and currently in residency right now. So, you know, as we not only are seeking to expand in our economics here, but we also want to invest in our people. And investing in our people in return also goes into our community. And that and going into our community, and that's tribal and non-tribal alike. And I believe that our impact for the years that the Mississippi Band and the impact that it's done on East Central Mississippi, but all of the state, from local economy and being the top 10 employer in the state, you will be able to see that we are a community-minded people, that we love who we are. We want to share who we are. And I hope that you will also, by today's presentation, be intrigued that we can be able to expand. And again, as we are seeing much of the trades and manufacturing had left our lands, let us bring it back here that we could also be successful together. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Ben. My name is John Hendricks. I'm the Director of Economic Development here for the tribe, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today and kind of share the opportunities that exist for you and your businesses as you're considering reshoring. So a lot of companies now, as Kenny mentioned, are thinking about decentralizing their supply chain and coming back to the United States for the production of their goods and services for a variety of reasons. It's de-risking, it's having more resilience, it's being closer to your customers. So a lot of people don't think about tribal lands as a place to do economic development and to do your business. So we really wanted to share our story with you today and highlight some of the successes that we've had and really get the wheels turning about the actual advantages that you could have by locating your business on Mississippi Choctaw tribal lands. So what I'd like to do is pick up where Chief Ben left off. So he gave a great overview of the tribal history and the culture that's still intact and in place in the community. But in 1945, economically speaking, the tribe was in really bad shape. There was 80% unemployment. The average life expectancy of tribal members was about 50 years. Mississippi Choctaw had the worst infant mortality rate. And there was, unfortunately, in the state of Mississippi, there was no public education for Choctaws past the 8th grade. There were white schools and there were black schools, but tribal members could not go to those schools beyond the 8th grade. So I don't say that to look for sympathy, but to me, if you think about the starting point of where Choctaw was in 1945 versus how far they've come today, it's pretty inspirational. So Mississippi Choctaw is a sovereign nation. It's a government, and all governments have a responsibility to provide services to the community. You got to do healthcare, you got to do police protection, fire protection, social services, and all of the things that governments do. But because of the situation with the tribal reservation land that the chief mentioned, the tribe doesn't have a tax structure. There's no property taxes. There's no income taxes. So the challenge is, how do you fund your government services without the traditional tax base? And one of the starting points to the tribe's economic development story really starts with leadership. So leadership, Choctaw has always been blessed with strong tribal leaders, and Philip Martin was one of the early tribal leaders in economic development. So he grew up in the community. He was he joined the military after World War II and saw Europe get rebuilt under the Marshall Plan. And so when he returned to Choctaw back in '56, he realized that if Europe could rebuild itself after the war, he looked at the economic situation on the reservation and said, well, we can do this too. So he was inspired to take a leadership role at Choctaw and to begin to rebuild the economy. So the way I'd like to share this with you is just kind of run through just kind of the top 10 advantages for your business to consider locating at Choctaw. So I'll go through each of these in more detail as we tell the story, but basically it's highlighted. It's a low cost of the labor, land, and facilities. It is a great place for people who are social impact investment minded. We can do some unique business models that traditional economic development entities can't do. The tribe status as a sovereign nation provides some advantages that aren't available in other communities. The tribe has 33,000 acres of land that are unencumbered. We can do some unique things with that. The federal government has set up some advantages and incentives to encourage economic development on tribal lands, which we'll highlight for you. We can do some unique public-private partnership models that, again, off-reservation entities can't do. We, as a sovereign nation, we can set up our own internal processes for how we do business. So a lot of times we're faster than most other non-Indian communities. We have a lot of experience and access to multiple ways to finance economic development. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about the commitment to workforce that Chief Ben has also started to highlight. So the first thing is to share with you is just to kind of spotlight the difference between traditional off-reservation economic development versus Mississippi Choctaw on-reservation economic development. So the traditional off-reservation economic model in any other community would be that they do economic development to improve the quality of life in their community, and in return, they increase their tax base. So their ad valorem taxes go up, their income taxes go up, and those taxes fund services which get reinvested in the community to improve the quality of life. Tribal lands, as trust lands, don't have that option. So the tribe does not have property taxes. We don't have income taxes. So we had to be very creative about how do we actually do economic development. It's not, you can't just take the off-reservation model and plug it into a reservation. So that led us to, when we look at projects, if it's a non-Indian company coming to Choctaw, we either collect market rents for their facility or we put tribal members to work. So those are the two things that we're looking at for those types of partnerships. Alternatively, the tribe actually owns and operates its own companies. So the tribally owned businesses earn business revenues which fund those government services. I just wanted to start and kind of make it clear up front that we have a different business model which gives us some more flexibility. But it's just, it's different. It's different, but we've got maybe some more opportunities for you. Walking through the key milestones in the tribe's economic development history, as Chief Ben mentioned, the tribe was Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians received federal recognition in 1945. And then Philip Martin was elected to the Tribal Council, which is like, it's similar to the House of Representatives. It's a 17-member body which represents the communities, and he was first elected in 1957 to that position. And then the tribe actually started its first company in 1969. So if any of you are familiar with tribes doing business and economic development, a lot of you are familiar with casinos, but most tribes didn't have businesses this early. So Choctaw was definitely a leader in economic development as early as 1969. So we opened a construction company to build affordable housing on the reservation, and that's where the tribe's economic development story really picks up. The next thing was that the tribe was looking to recruit industry, and they realized they needed an industrial park. So the first industrial park, 30 acres, was built in 1971. Chief Martin continued to rise in leadership at Choctaw and became the tribal chief in 1979. The tribe opened its first manufacturing venture in 1979 as well, so that we were a tier 2 supplier to General Motors and Ford doing wire harness assembly work. So the trend at the time, back in the 70s and 80s, was that the manufacturing base in the northern states was moving south because they were looking for cheaper places to do business. So Choctaw capitalized on that with its first manufacturing plant in 1979. The next industrial venture was American Greeting. So it was the largest greeting card company in the world, and they needed a place to hand finish greeting cards. So with the Choctaw traditions of handcrafts and basket weaving and beadwork, there was a lot of skilled labor to do this type of hand finishing work on cards. So the tribe actually built a 120,000 square foot manufacturing plant for American Greetings to hand finish greeting cards, and then put 250 people to work back in 1981. The next opportunity came with a speaker company located in Chicago, Illinois, that again, they wanted not only an affordable place to do business and a lower cost of labor and facilities, they also wanted to have a minority partner. So in 1985, the tribe formed its first joint venture partnership with Oxford Speaker Company to manufacture automotive speakers, again, for the automotive supply chain. In 1986, the tribe formed another wholly owned tribal manufacturing company called Choctaw Manufacturing that did additional aftermarket parts and supply components for the primarily the automotive sector, as well as industrial equipment. And as the tribe's industrial base and economy began to develop, the tribe started to diversify and think about other things that could be put on tribal lands to improve the quality of life for tribal members and to create a stronger community and economic development plan. So in 1986, the tribe got a certificate of need from the state of Mississippi to build a licensed nursing home. So there's a 120-bed licensed nursing facility that still remains open today, and they're doing very well. In 1988, the tribe, again, improving the quality of life and kind of expanding the local economy, built a shopping center. So it was approximately 45,000 square foot community retail center with a grocery store, a dollar store, a bank branch, a post office. So the intent, again, to improve the quality of life on the community and to retain some of those dollars in the Choctaw economy. The next milestone in the tribe's story was it was kind of outside of the box thinking. So Senator Trent Lott, who was a powerful senator when he retired, contacted Chief Martin and said, we've got a printing company in in my home district on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and it's going bankrupt. So by this time, Choctaw had such a strong business reputation that people were actually calling Choctaw to say, can you come help our community and save our businesses? So the tribe did that. We purchased 40 acres of land and the facility which became known as First American Printing and Direct Mail, and it was the largest Gulf commercial printer on the Gulf Coast until we relocated it to Choctaw in 2010. So that was the first time that we'd done a merger and acquisition off reservation. And then the final milestone in this version of the story is that we formed another joint venture with a company that needed a minority partner to supply forks, knives, and spoons to McDonald's. So we formed First American Plastic Molding, 51-49% joint venture with a non-Indian firm to get into that business. So all told, the first wave of the tribe's economic development story was all around the Industrial Revolution. So from 71 to 96, the tribe was able to create 2,000 manufacturing jobs on the reservation for the tribal members and the community. We established some really strong awards and remarks from our customers. We supplied Ford and Pepsi and Harley Davidson, McDonald's, Chrysler, Navistar, Club Car, and John Deere. And year after year, the tribal businesses won all the highest quality awards with these blue chip companies. So that was really the solid foundation for the tribe's economic development story. The end result of that is that we ended up with 5 different industrial parks in the state of Mississippi, in 5 different counties, and then we also have some land along a 4-lane highway in Lauderdale County, Tennessee, that's primed for industrial development as well. If businesses are looking for a strong transportation infrastructure, we have land that has different options for that as well. So we have an interstate location on the Gulf Coast, where that printing company was purchased, on Interstate 10 and Highway 57 in Jackson County. We also have multiple sites that have access to 4-lane highways. So in 3 separate counties in Mississippi. If the industry needs access to rail, we have a site that's adjacent to a spur, and we could extend the spur if it's needed. So we have a greenfield industrial site in Winston County, Mississippi, that has potential for a rail spur. And then finally, if you need access to a port, our property on the Gulf Coast is within 20 miles of the port of Pascagoula. So if port access is important to your supply chain, we've got a site that's proximate to that as well. So really the highlights of the industrial revolution at Choctaw kind of it gives good case studies of the 3 first advantages for working with the tribe. The low cost of labor, land, and facilities is what led to the industrial revolution here at Choctaw. These companies are keen on social impact investing, so all those blue chip companies, the Fortune 500 companies, like the fact that Choctaw was one of their partners or the location for their supply. And then again, the unique business model that we have to offer versus most non-Indian communities. The next thing I'd like to highlight, this is just a map of all of the tribes across the United States, tribal land. So there's 576 different tribal entities from the continental U.S. as well as Alaska. But tribal lands are different. They are owned by the United States government, held in trust for the tribe. And so we're not able to sell that land under trust status, to keep it trust status. So we can do leasing arrangements. But we have the ability to, we have 35,000 acres of land that's unencumbered, so we have some more options. And so one of the things that came along with our sovereign nation status was there was a change in federal law that created another economic development opportunity for Mississippi Choctaw, and we capitalized on it. So the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, so if you're familiar with tribes that have casinos, they have those casinos because of this law that was passed in 1988. So essentially it says that if a state allows gaming to occur within their state boundaries, the tribes within that state also have the right to do gaming. So the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act really launched the next wave of Choctaw economic development, which was from the early 90s through 2007, and its assets are still intact today. But in 1994, we opened our first casino, the Silver Star Hotel and Casino. It's located in Choctaw, Mississippi, in the Pearl River community, and it proved to be tremendously successful. And one of the benefits, like I mentioned, that the tribe has 33,000 acres of land that's unencumbered, we can do things that other gaming municipalities won't do or can't do. So we've got land that's paid for, and so we can take a destination resort mindset rather than just a single property mindset. So we built 2 world-class golf courses on 750 acres of land, both ranked in the top 100. We would welcome you to come play if you're a golfer. And again, that's a development that would not occur in typical off-reservations settings. We continued to diversify our gaming assets, and we built the Golden Moon Hotel and Casino, opened it in 2002, and we built a family destination water park, Geyser Falls Water Theme Park, that opened in 2003. So ultimately, we branded all these assets as the Pearl River Resort. So it is a destination resort that attracts visitors from multiple states, several million visitors per year. And then it's one of the largest employers in the region now, with over 2,500 employees. It's also the largest source of business revenue for Choctaw. So it's a strong asset in our community, and it really kind of highlights the next wave of economic development, which was tourism and gaming under a destination resort operation. And again, just to highlight, thinking about the advantages of doing business at Choctaw, the sovereign nation status made that possible. That's the only reason there is casino gaming in East Central Mississippi. And then the unencumbered federal trust lands allowed us to do the water parks and the golf courses that wouldn't have happened otherwise, because we've got the land to expand. The next thing I'd like to highlight is the opportunities created through the U.S. federal government. They are the largest market in the world. They spend $550 billion per year on goods and services, and they have set up some incentives and advantages to encourage economic development on tribal lands and with tribal businesses. So one program is called the SBA 8A program. So for any federal agencies that are making purchases, tribes can create 8A companies that get certain advantages when you're bidding on those contracts. So tribally owned 8A companies have a strong advantage in federal contracting. Another advantage is just the status of tribal land. So there is a designation called historically underutilized business zones, which these are available off reservation as well. But the challenge is that if that community, if their economy improves in that community, their hub zone status can be removed. Tribal lands don't have that. So tribal lands are perpetually hub zone eligible. So if you are a company that wants to supply to the federal government and federal customers, you can maintain your hub zone advantage throughout if you're located on tribal lands. The Department of Defense is also a big advocate for doing business with tribes. They've set up a program called Mentor Protege Program. So if tribes want to pursue a certain line of business or industry to become a supplier to the DoD, we can mentor with a prime contractor. The big prime contractors can become the mentor to our new company, which would be the protege, to encourage that training and development. And then finally, there's also an Indian incentive program. So for prime contractors that subcontract to tribally owned businesses, they actually get a rebate, a 5% rebate on their contract value. So the federal government, again, it's the largest customer in the world, and they have a lot of advantages and incentives that they bestow on tribal businesses and tribal lands to encourage economic development in our communities. So that really is the launch pad for the third wave of the tribe's economic development, which is underway, continues to be underway now. The tribe formed its first 8A company, Applied Geotechnologies, to do geospatial services back in 2003. We've continued to build companies around the federal contracting base. So construction companies, services companies, we now have IT and cybersecurity businesses. And we've also recruited some non-Indian tenants just based on these federal advantages. So the two at the bottom, Real Time Laboratories, is an Israeli-owned defense contractor that has a manufacturing facility at Choctaw because of our advantages and our partnership opportunities. We've also had in the past a manufacturing facility leased to AAI Textron Systems for the same benefits. So federal contracting, again, is another unique advantage on tribal lands, and we have built an economic wave around that opportunity. The next thing I'd like to highlight is the innovative business structures. So again, for most economic development entities that you may be familiar with, you're going to be a tenant. You're either going to lease a building or land or buy land from them, and then that's kind of the end of the relationship. Choctaw has a lot more business structures that we've done in the past to make economic development happen, which may be a benefit to your organization as well. So just in terms of a highlight of the deals that we've done, we've got 100% tribally owned companies. We can be the landlord for a building. We can be the landlord for just property. We have joint venture partnerships. We have purchased companies. We can form strategic alliances. We can do the mentor protege agreement for federal contracting. We have started up some companies and sold them. We've had management agreements. So we have a lot of tools in our toolkit to do economic development. We can be a lot more aggressive than most communities can be if the opportunity is beneficial to the tribe and both parties. So this is just an example of the different deals that we've done, economic development deals, and to show you the variety of ways that we can structure those. So again, just highlighting our top 10 advantages. That's the case and study of public-private partnerships, and then the ease of doing business with the tribe. The next section is really to talk about financing. So tribal lands, there's some question about how do you actually do financing on tribal lands. So we've been very successful with that. So the tribe has access to a lot of different financing programs. We have access to grant funding. So the photo in the top left is an organic farm operation that we got started with primarily grant funding. We've done large syndicated bank loans. The Golden Moon and some of the Pearl River resort assets were financed with syndicated bank loans. We've done the largest direct federal loan in the USDA's history. We built a state-of-the-art Choctaw Health Center with a $45 million direct loan from the USDA, which was prepaid early. We have done multiple new market tax credit projects, so a hotel that we developed using new market tax credits, and we've got another new markets project underway now. We also have access to tax-exempt financing. We have access to loan guarantees. We have access to loan insurance. And in 2018, when the opportunity zones were established, we got 2 of our census tracts included as opportunity zones. So we have a lot of experience in project financing. We financed over $500 million worth of projects over the last 15 years. And so for the right projects, we feel like we can put together the funding to make it happen if it makes sense, economic sense for the tribe. On top of that, for non-Indian companies that locate on tribal lands, you get the access to accelerated depreciation benefits. So if you owned assets located on tribal lands, you can depreciate them twice as fast. So it's basically a tax savings to your business, again, exclusively for being located on tribal lands. And then finally, I wanted to highlight the emphasis on workforce development. Workforce is the key to successful businesses. We understand that. Choctaw has a lot of assets in place to support the tribal workforce. The tribe, as Chief mentioned, operates the largest school system, the tribal school system in the United States, with about 3,000 students from pre-K early Head Start all the way through 12th grade. We established a virtual learning center, which is a state-of-the-art facility for adults that didn't finish high school but can go back and get their high school diploma on their own pace. We established a scholarship program to overcome those decades of undereducated opportunities because of Mississippi's laws. The tribe funded a scholarship program. So if you wanted to get a post-secondary education degree or certificate, the tribe has a scholarship program to fund that. We have a full-time workforce development department with over 20 full-time staff and 8 separate programs to support employment and training needs among tribal members. We have a WIN Job Center to help with job placement on site. And then we've also established an Integrated Technologies Training Center in partnership with a local community college that actually teaches classes on the reservation to support the needs of today's industry and customized workforce training. The talent pipeline off the reservation, we have 20 different colleges and universities within 100 miles of Choctaw, and those are graduating 25,000 bright kids every year. So we've got not only our workforce, but the workforce being provided through the local colleges and universities. In a study that was done in 2018, we were trying to understand, get a good handle on our labor force, and do we have what kind of workforce do we have? And based on the folks that in 2018 that were unemployed and interested in working part-time, looking for full-time, maybe underemployed or coming out of college, we had over 63,000 people in our labor shed that were, we considered them hidden labor reserves. And again, that was in 2018, so it's probably even a little bit higher than that today based on the current economic situation. But we feel like we've got an adequate workforce for a lot of different types of industry sectors. And if you locate on tribal lands, you have access to an Indian employment tax credit. So if your business hires tribal members, you can get a percentage of that as a tax credit on your federal income tax. So again, that was just highlighting the tribe's economic development story, highlighting the top 10 advantages for locating your business on tribal lands, and kind of case studies, examples of how we've actually done this successfully for the past 50 years. So we've got a lot of other things going on. That was a look back in history, but we're continuing to look for more opportunities. Wood product manufacturing, fabricated metal production. We've got, we're looking at carbon offset market opportunities, cybersecurity, virtual reality. So we have a wide ranging portfolio of deals that we're evaluating now. And we would certainly welcome any additional opportunities coming from reshoring, because we know that you are considering, if it's a webinar, you're looking at the best way to bring your production back to the U.S. again for a variety of factors, for closer to market, de-risking, decentralizing your supply chain. And we just wanted to make sure that you knew that Choctaw was open for business, and that we probably can do some things that you won't be able to get in other communities off the reservation. So we'd like for you to connect with us. We've got active social media accounts, our website here, follow us on LinkedIn, connect with us on Twitter or Facebook, and keep up with all of the news and latest and greatest of activities that we've got going on here at Choctaw. You're welcome to call or email me directly. That's my cell phone number. And you can call us anytime. But with that, I'd like to go back to Kenny and Chief and see if you had any closing remarks before we get into the Q&A.
I think the chief got offline, but good job, John. That was a great presentation. I echo your sentiment. When you say we're open for business, we are really open and ready to do have some economic growth here in our own little spot in the land, and also in the whole state. So, and I think John's done a great job of showing our footprint. And I don't know where Chief went, but as far as that goes, I don't know how we're going to do the Q&A. Are we just going to answer off of the board to the right, or? So there's a question Miss Darby asked, and there's Timmy coming in.
Hi,
Okay.
yeah, I just jumped in kind of to facilitate what I was seeing here in the chat. And yes, LeVay did ask a really good question. What is the process for an MBE to get involved with your mentor protege program? Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think that'd be a good one. Chief wants to grab.
What I was going to say is most of your mentor protege application process is handled by the SBA. So we've had I know of one that we looked into. I think the possible mentor did not meet all eligibility in the latest one while I was with the chartered corporations, but we do go through the application process through the SBA.
Okay, cool. I'll keep it moving right along. Earlier, we had Anselmo ask, do you all have bilingual education formally recognized?
In our education programs, we do. We also have immersion of cultural and language programs at our tribal schools. We do understand the footprint of our tribal members is abroad all across Mississippi. So it's not recognized in all public schools, but we do run a tribal school system ourselves, actually the largest single district tribally operated school education system in the nation. There are other tribes out there that have multiple districts that they oversight, but as a single district, we actually operate. For those of you, if you wonder in comparison, how do we lie in the size of schools in the state of Mississippi? We're a small 4A school by classifications from 1A to 6A in the state of Mississippi.
Okay.
So when I was going to school, I don't know if they still did it when you was going, Chief, but when I was going, we had a history class. So we had
do
a
as
full
well
hour.
too.
Yeah. I don't know if do we still do that now?
That is correct.
Okay, cool.
So we have time for a few more questions. So Hollis asks, has BAN entered into or considered venture into the solar power industry?
Yes,
Yes.
Hollis, we have considered, have we gone into a venture? We have not, but we have identified 2 locations that TVA lines come across our properties. So we have some interest, and I believe one of them is not too far south of where you're located as well.
Awesome. All right. And it looks like we have one more down here. Does the tribe have any existing buildings available for a manufacturer?
We do, John. If you'd want to kind of give some specs on that one, and as far as the height, ceiling height, you know.
Sure. We've got 3 facilities located in Leake County, Mississippi. They're each about 40,000 square feet of manufacturing space, plus some office space and break room space. The ceiling heights, there's 3 separate plants, so they range from 14 feet to 18 feet, eave heights interior. We also have another location in the Pearl River community that has about 30,000 square feet up to 18 feet high. It's available, and then another 33,000 square feet of space that's also about 18 feet high with some interior cranes and some equipment. So we do have 5 different options for you from 40,000 square feet, and those 40,000 square feet plants are adjacent to one another, so you could basically be side by side for up to 120,000 square feet of space if you needed it. So we do move-in ready facilities.
Awesome.
I think
Awesome.
Holly
Okay.
had a question about partnership investments in the tribal-owned businesses.
Did I skip one?
Yeah, I can read it for you.
You can read it for me. Yeah.
Are there opportunities for partnership investment, and it went away, into tribal-owned businesses? You know, if that's either for you, Chief, or John.
We have entertained all versions. We have joint ventures for investments, and as well as just partnership from a corporate standpoint. We've partnership on federal contracts as well, in levels of the execution of different levels of the contract. So we are very flexible and can be creative on whatever the structure would need to be.
Awesome. So with only a few minutes left, I actually, you know what, we can squeeze in this last question. Are there any industries that are ideal for relocation on tribal land? Any industries that are not ideal?
You want me to jump in?
Yeah, anyone can answer.
You know, I think for one, we let me say this from a standpoint of a Central Mississippi, and you look at what is some of the industries here. I think that we are in a key location for multiple industries that could be located into the various lands that we have, and of course, you know, everything from your manufacturing, or if it's even timber agriculture work, and because we are close even here in Neshoba County. You've got one of the largest woodwork plants, warehousers located here. So, you know, we've got lands that also, that I don't know, the Winston County property is not an active rail line anymore, but we're right next door to one of the largest wood mill plants that's been established in Central Mississippi. We're all the way down on the coast as well, where you've got Interstate 10. That is less than a half a mile from our property, and so it's very diverse for us. Even if we looked at industry all the way into our property that's on West Tennessee, Highway 51 is a 4-lane highway that lies north and south, that can connect you easily to the south of being Memphis, or to the north being Dyersburg, and also getting up into Kentucky or back to I-55 north.
Awesome. So very few limitations, lots of room for opportunity. I want to thank all of you gentlemen for being here today and speaking with us. This has been a great presentation.